Welcome, family and friends of Lois Peterson, here in this room and on Zoom. I am Reverend Frieda Gillespie. I am the interim minister here at First Parish Church in Waltham. I and the many volunteers who are putting the service on today are honored to be here today to celebrate with you Lois's life and legacy. Before we begin this celebration of life, I need to say a few words about safety. Before the pandemic, the only announcements we would make at the beginning of a memorial service was to tell you where the bathrooms were. But now I must say much more. In order to protect the most vulnerable in the Peterson family and in this room, we ask you, even if you've been vaccinated, to please wear a mask over your nose and mouth while you're in here. The ushers will bring a mask to you if you do not have one. You may take your mask off to speak into the microphone. Just put it back on when you sit down. There will be a reception after the service that you're all invited to in Whitcomb Hall. Please observe the same mask rules there. Taking off your mask only to eat and drink. If you wish to have some quiet time before going into the reception, you can be directed to the chapel, where again, we ask that you remain masked. We thank you for accepting this inconvenience for the sake of these dear ones here that we wish to protect. By the way, the bathrooms are on the way to the chapel. We will start our memorial service with a prelude. When someone we have cared for dies, and especially as in this case, after an engaged and fulfilling life, family and friends gather with sorrow in their hearts. At times we must face death and loss, and we need one another's company for understanding and support. Just to be together, to look into the other's faces, takes away some of our loneliness and draws our hearts together in the healing which we can offer one another. At such times, the various faiths that sustain us separately come together in a harmony that acts across all creeds and assures us of the permanence of human goodness and hope. The human race is one great family. The living and the dead and the generations yet unborn make up that enduring communion of humanity, which shares the adventure of life on this beautiful earth. As is our UU tradition, we will light a chalice, and Lydia Peterson will do the honors for us. We light this chalice in memory of Lois Peterson, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, friend, and longtime member of First Parish in Waltham. We celebrate the many gifts she shared with all of you. Josh Peterson will now speak. Whichever you prefer.
Thank you all for coming. So I'm Josh Peterson, the youngest son of Lois, and if you didn't know, Mom's given name was Lois Dorothea Peterson, or Polly rather. And if you look through the albums of my inveterate shutterbug mother, you'll see LDP on a lot of her earlier pictures. So most of you know Mom, though, as Lois Dorothea Peterson. And do you see what she did there? LDP. She married a man whose last name, when she took it, would not change her initials. And I don't think that was the main reason for marrying Papa, but I suspect it did appeal to her pragmatic side. It was a running theme throughout her life. In 1934, Mom's parents told little Lois, who was 3 years old at the time, that she needed to share a bed with her older sister, Myrtle, to help save money. And so they went to bed that night, being the good, obedient girls they were, but Mom quickly found herself shoved into the crack between the bed and the wall. And she did not sleep that night. So in the morning, a cranky little 3-year-old girl went to her parents to complain about this. And her parents essentially told her and Myrtle to sort it out. So that night, little Lois found her shoes and put them on, pulled on her little footy pajamas over the shoes, and when she started to get pushed into the crack, the kicking started. In the morning, Myrtle complained about the bruises, and Lois got her own bed. So she was pragmatic from the start. So Mom, she may have been a hard-headed little girl, but she was not a hard-hearted young person. Mom and Myrtle, they both grew up to become nurses. And one of the stories we have about her came from when Mom was working as a student nurse. She was working over at Boston Children's Hospital. And Myrtle was working as a nurse at the time, and she was also studying for a history degree. And sometimes at the end of a long day, she did not want to have to commute all the way home and, go rest and then start everything the next day. She had a brutal schedule. And so she and Mom worked something out. Mom was living in a student dorm at Children's. And so what they did is they arranged their shifts so that Myrtle could sleep in her bed while she was off doing her work over at Children's. They basically had a hot bunk, and Mom said that the sheets never got cold. So it may have taken them a while to work it out, but eventually Myrtle and Mom did figure out how they could share a bed together. Mom's nursing career led her to teaching at LaSalle and at Newton Wellesley, and one of the challenges of teaching is finding a fair and consistent way to handle grades. Anybody who's an educator knows all about that. So Mom developed her own grading algorithm, and in short order, it was used across the organization. And another instructor liked it enough that she even tried to pass it off as her own, but everybody knew it belonged to Lois Poly. And Mom was approached actually to try and monetize this as a product. But no, she didn't want to do that. She simply wanted to do a job and do it well. And as of the 1990s, Mom told me that they were still using this system in some modified form. And throughout Mom's life, you saw this. She would find problems, and she would seek ways to solve them and use what she came up with to help others. Well, by 1965, Mom was in her prime, both professionally and physically. And as an accomplished professional with advanced degrees helping supervise a hospital's nursing service, what she did not have was a mate. So what is an exceedingly intelligent young woman with a practical bent to do? Well, to use scientific mate selection, of course. So algorithms had served her well as an instructor, and so she looked for companies using logical approaches to finding mates. And she found a place called the Scientific Marriage Institute. They use psychological screening and interviews and a variety of other metrics designed to use logic to select a mate. And if this all sounds very Star Trek, well, please do keep in mind that Mom took this approach a year before the Enterprise took to the screen, so maybe Gene Roddenberry was channeling Mom. In any case, it worked. Mom and Papa each spent more than $4,000 in today's currency, and she chose as her life partner a brilliant young engineer, Roland Peterson. And I do not doubt that his practical bent struck a deep chord in her heart, as hers did in him. They married the day after Christmas in 1966 at Beth Union Baptist. It was decorated with gladiolas, which we couldn't get, but we did manage to get something pretty close to it. To echo what they used. It was an intimate ceremony, and they had a quiet honeymoon on the Cape. I wanted to relate another couple of pragmatic anecdotes about Mom. So about that time, Mom and her brother Don both wanted a car. And Don kind of saw her mom as her little buddy, and the two of them had a very dear and intimate relationship. And I can only imagine the fun they had researching cars together. And they settled on the 1966 Dodge Dart. Now, please forgive me as I slide momentarily into a gearhead geekery with which Mom apparently slid into back in the 60s. So the 66 Dart had a V8 engine as its baseline option, which was a good engine, but better if you had a good mechanic to work on it. And her brother Don was an excellent mechanic. He had been an Air Force mechanic. It was a great car for him to work on. My mom, though, did not want to work on a car. So she got the Slant 6 upgrade, and Chrysler made that engine from 1960 to 87. It's remembered as one of the most rugged and dependable engines they ever put out. Papa spoke many times about how much of a pleasure it was to work on that engine. And I have on good authority that after 25 years, that car could still go well over 90 miles per hour. She kept it well into the 90s. And for those of you who remember that car, there was also the color. Now, Don and my mom had both bought these kind of light powder blue colored cars. And as kids, we sometimes would have to look in the back seat to see what toys and clothes and things were back there to figure out whose car was whose when we were at family gatherings. And I'm sure a lot of people here can relate to looking in a parking lot and seeing a sea of colors that are all similar and not being able to easily find your car. Well, Mom had a solution to this. This practical woman said, "School bus yellow." People had one of two reactions to that. Either it was to say, wow, what a notable and extraordinary choice for color, or to say, did somebody steal something from a cab company? Still, after the Dart was painted, everybody knew when the Petersons had arrived. People generally liked the car, though. Don's car eventually ended up in our backyard, by the way. And even a good mechanic couldn't take care of that V8 forever. So Mom and Papa, they bought a house in Waltham on the West End, and used to be an apple orchard where they were, but by the mid-70s, Mom had 3 little bundles of joy bounding about in a very small single-story house. And that little space was clearly not enough. At the same time, fuel shortages had led to lines at the gasoline station, and people were looking for ways to conserve energy. The president at the time, Jimmy Carter, was pushing solar hard from his bully pulpit, and Mom wanted to add a 2nd floor to her house. So, thus began the Petersons' solar energy experiment on Ravenswood Road. They got federal grants, which covered the architectural design and some other fees, and on the cheap, Mom got her 2nd floor. Then there was the porch addition. 3 kids can dig out a basement in New England's rocky soil, right? And then there were the chairs. We, and by we I mostly mean Beth, were given the task of sanding and finishing the new dining room chairs, and they're still in use today because why pay for someone else to sand and slap on polyurethane? And then there was the rotating bath and chore schedule she organized with trades allowed because she felt it important that we all take turns and know what it's like to be first and last. The kids needed bikes. Well, Waltham had an Independence Day costume contest. And within a short time, the Peterson kids eventually all had prize bikes. Logical, efficient, practical, those words well describe my mom. As my brother Eric is fond of saying about Mom, she has a system. Speaking of Eric, please allow me to add one more anecdote. If you've ever had construction done, or if you've been on a job site, you know that nails, screws, and all sorts of other pointy little things end up all over the place. My brother had a pretty traumatic incident with a nail in his hand, and there were also nails that ended up in people's shoes. And the bottom line is that nobody wants pointy things like that around their kids all the time. Well, how does the saying go? When God gives you lemons, you make lemonade? Well, when God gives you pointy nails in your yard, you have the nail game at your 8th or 9th birthday party. Lots of little kids running around picking up pointy things. That was so Mom. It was so very Mom. We kids grew up, we married, we had kids of our own, and Mom was a loving mother to all of us. She brought spouses and grandchildren near her like the loving mother bird she was. I've emphasized Mom's practical side, and I hope you've heard that thread of kindness that ran through her life. We do not know when the cancer first started. We know that roughly 2 years ago, she first started exhibiting symptoms, signs of the unusual growths, which were probably the start of the malignancies. Dr. Harris Leahy initiated her treatment, and I'm very glad for that man. He was very thorough in showing her the options that she had. He treated Mom with respect and kindness, and as the disease progressed, as the cancer spread, Mom was given some clear options. And you're probably all familiar with cancer options, but if not, they're usually generally very aggressive therapy, which will have significant side effects, often debilitating side effects, and you may not have much quality of life. The other alternative is less aggressive treatments, which tend to have a lesser chance of reducing or eliminating the cancer, but that allow you to have a greater quality of life. Mom's pragmatic side won out. She wanted to have that quality of life, to be able to do what she could. She was in medical care for months, and as that was going on, Papa had a medical incident, which ended up with him at spending a lot of time at Care 1 in Newton. Even as Mom was declining, she wanted us to take her to see him as often as possible. And at first, when we went in, I would hold her hand because she was unsteady on her feet, and later she needed a wheelchair to get in, but she would not consider not going. When Papa finally came home in August, Eric and I, carrying him in the wheelchair into the house, she sat with him, and they both smiled. And we installed Papa downstairs in the spare bedroom. Papa says his best moment each day was seeing her come downstairs. I believe those were her best moments each day, too. Even as her health failed, she still worked on organizing things. She worked with Beth and Eric, reviewing financial and legal papers. She worked with me to help care for Papa and the house and to guide caretakers. A lot of people, even family members, had trouble realizing she was dying. I remember one incident where the caretakers were asking her, can you do more things? We had to kind of gently let them know, no, she really can't do more things. She never stopped being mom. She never stopped. She never stopped going to Zoom meetings in First Parish. She never stopped reading through her mail and emails and reaching out to friends and to family. And when she decided the pain had become too much, she entered herself into hospice care. Part of that, I think, is that she wanted to spare her children the responsibility of doing so. She wanted everyone to know that it was her choice, not something imposed on her. This was just handfuls of days before she died. She made a point of doing something which surprisingly even shocked the hospice people, and that was that she insisted that with her failing grip and wobbling hand, that she be the one to sign herself into hospice, that she be the one who made sure everybody understood what needed to be done. One sad evening in late October, Mom tried to go upstairs to her bedroom on her beloved second floor, and she could not. Beth and a caretaker helped her to bed, and the next day she tried again, and it needed to be carried the rest of the way. That was October 28th. She never took the stairs again, but she wanted to see Papa, and he's down on the first floor, and he wanted to see her. He was too weak still to climb up to see her. So we rearranged rooms downstairs to make a place for them to be together, and we carried her down to the room that had originally been their bedroom long, long ago. Mom's voice had become a raspy whisper at that point, but she said, "It's more convenient like this." Mom, her beloved pragmatism. I held her hand at the end on that last morning, on November 10th. I'd been sitting with Papa for some time. We'd been talking and praying, and then I went to Mom and held her hand and talked to her a little bit. She wasn't responding at that point, but I prayed for her and prayed that God would give her peace and take her home. I said goodbye and gave her a kiss. And then I left for my home in New Hampshire, and she was gone before I got there. But she'd held on long enough to hear somebody say goodbye, because that sober and down-to-earth person knew that people would want to say goodbye. My siblings and I grew up in this church. And how many times have we heard those words? Love is the spirit of this church. Service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I think Mom tried hard to live up to those words, to the sense they reflected in Jesus' words about love, to love each other as I have loved you. Mom loved so many people. She loved her UU friends and nursing friends and Air Force friends. She loved her children and her family members and all their struggles and flaws and bickering. She loved this church through all its many struggles. She loved the God who gave her life and whom she's now returned. So I encourage you to remember the joy of her life, and I thank you for loving Lois Peterson.
And now, Beth Peterson is going to lead us in a responsive reading called To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even have that on the thing. I'm sorry, we're going to have an interlude first, and Laura Sandman is going to play the flute.
I'd like you to join with me in the responsive reading to be of use. You can do it in the Great Hymnal, but it's also an insert in your order of service. I will read the standard type text, and please respond with the italicized text. To be of use. I want to be with people who submerge in the task. Who stand in the line and haul their places. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands and crumbles to dust. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you are know that they were made to be used. I wanted to add some short comments. I have here a mug with a rainbow on it. There used to be over half a dozen of these in my parents' kitchen cabinet. A mug can mean many things to many people. My daughter Beatrice, when she first noticed them, would think she had pretty chill grandparents. My cousin Laura saw them as a reminder of Rainbow Girls, because in Rainbow Girls they had sold some of the similar mugs as a fundraiser. But I knew that they weren't selling them when I was in Rainbow. I know where they're from. They're from my mother's stint as a mystery shopper. I came home from college to find my bedroom full of pick-me-up bouquets, each of them in one of these mugs. And at first I thought, I didn't think the semester was going that bad. I am grateful for all of you who are here today celebrating what my mom meant to you, whatever that happened to be. Thank you.
Laura, would you like to come up and share Psalm 23?
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My aunt requested that this be read today. It was my honor and blessing to be able to do it. It is important for me to add a quotation from The Places That Scare You by Pema Chodrun. This explains Lois and my relationship. Warriors in training need someone to guide them. A master warrior, a teacher, a spiritual friend. Someone who knows the territory well. They can help you find their way. There are different levels of a teacher-student relationship. For some people, reading a book or hearing a specific teacher teach is enough. Others might then request to be that teacher-student, asking for guidance, now and then. This kind of relationship is valuable for many. It is rare that students initially feel ready for a more unconditional commitment with a teacher, working very intimately on where they are holding back. Not many of us have that much trust in another person, that much willingness to be seen without our masks. There's a pun there. We are wise, in fact, not to rush into such a relationship without developing maitri for ourselves and confidence that this particular teacher is trustworthy. These are the prerequisites for making a deeper commitment to a spiritual friend. Lois was all of those things.
And now Juili Peterson will recite the Lord's Prayer. You can either come here or all the way up here if you like, whichever you prefer. And she will be reciting in English and in Taiwanese.
The Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, forgive our debts as we forgiven our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, the glory, all belongs to you from now till forever and ever. Amen. Thanks to my mother-in-law's kindness, love, and openness, she welcomed a Taiwanese like me into her family. And it is her request here for me to share my Taiwanese heritage and my religion with you. So I will recite the Taiwanese Lord's Prayer here with you. 主禱文，阮佇個天頂的爸啊，願你的名為聖，願你的國降臨，願你的旨意行佇個世上，敢若是佇個天頂。阮今仔日的美玲，你要賞賜予阮，你免赦免阮的辜負，若親像阮咧赦免辜負阮的人。毋通互阮拄着試探，你要叫阮離開迄個惡的，因為國度、權柄、甲榮光，攏是你的，代代無盡。阿們。
And now Roland Peterson will come up and share John 3:16 from the New Testament.
John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Lois was very insistent on having this read at her memorial. Thank you.
And now, Kevonna Shuford will share in our interlude, Amazing Grace. this time, I invite anyone who would like to share a remembrance of Lois to come up. I think it will be easiest to speak from this microphone down here. I will hand it to you. And we'll start with anyone else in the family that might like to share. And then we'll go to anyone else who would like to share.
All right. I was engaged to Lois for too long. We should have gotten married sooner, but after our wonderful December 26th wedding in 1966, Lois and I visited Cape Cod. The Provincetown winter beaches were clear, no crowds. Soon tax time came. I sensed an opportunity to show my little woman how taxes were done. I soon learned I was blessed with a wife having a superior knowledge of financial matters. This wisdom of financial matters continued for the rest of our marriage. Lois did most of our tax preparation. While I was working, we have 3 fine offspring who are all married partners from outside the United States. Later, my mental and health became worse, but Lois continued to be a loving and capable manager. Although she had her physical problems, about Memorial Day 2021, my health was becoming noticeably worse. But Lois remained lovable and capable. She rented a comfortable hospital bed for me. Each morning, I could predict a good day by seeing Lois coming downstairs from our bedroom. However, Lois began showing signs of weakness. Soon, Lois moved downstairs to the hospital bed I had been using. We then shared the same bedroom. Lois's health went down quickly. In about 2 weeks, she lost her life quietly, November 10th, early in the morning.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming today to remember the life of my grandmother. My name is Danielle and I am one of Lois's, or Grandma Timmy's, granddaughters. Though the past couple of weeks have been extremely challenging, I want to take this opportunity to give thanks for Grandma's life. I was so blessed to know her on this earth, and I know that many of you in this room were as well. Grandma was such a loving and kind person that I looked up to in so many ways. She was bold, yet exhibited gentleness and humility. She was generous and wise, but also had a silly side too. She deeply cared for her family and friends and was always intentional about loving others. On top of that, she was a great cook and a gardener too. What an amazing woman. She has already been so dearly missed. Grandma and I had a special relationship for many reasons. Although I was not a biological grandchild, she immediately welcomed me into the family as her first grandchild. Through the years, I have many fond memories visiting Grandma. We spent countless hours playing school on the basement chalkboard, gardening, and exploring Riverhead together. One of my most cherished seasons with Grandma was when I lived with Grandpa and Grandma during the summer of 2017. Over dinner every evening, we would talk for hours, and her and Grandpa often shared incredible stories from their past. Both of them have lived through such pivotal historical moments, such as World War II, the Great Depression, and the Civil Rights Movement. I really valued learning from them, and we had so many conversations I'll never forget. I'm so grateful for this time I was able to spend with her in the last years of her life. After that summer, I returned to college and we didn't get to talk as often. However, Grandma always proudly supported my endeavors, whether it was music, academics, or swimming. Throughout college, she made the time to live stream every single one of my college swim meets. She didn't tell me that she did this, but that was just the kind of incredible person she was, quietly selfless and serving others. The last couple of months of her life were the hardest for me because I knew that we didn't have much time left together. It is also hard to see one of the strongest people you know suffering in pain. Despite Grandma being in extreme pain, she could continue to love others, whether it was Grandpa, me, or even the doctors and nurses. She consistently had a cheerful attitude, even when her outer body was failing. Weeks leading up to her death, Grandma exhibited an incredible amount of peace, which I found extremely encouraging. I hope that the rest of you can feel encouraged as I was as well. Grandma had a hope for a future beyond this life that I share. Romans 8:1 says, "Therefore there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, because through Christ Jesus the law of the Spirit who gives life has set you free from the law of sin and death. Death has no sting for those who believe in this truth." Verse 18 goes on to say, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us." How incredible to think of a future glory that is waiting for us beyond this earth. Missing Grandma is painful, and grieving has already been challenging for our family. She was an incredible person who touched so many lives, and it hurts that she is gone. However, I believe that there is no condemnation for those who regenerated, and I have hope for a future glory, and I believe Grandma did as well. I hope I get to see her again someday, in a place where there is no pain and suffering, and we can share perfect joy the rest of our days. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and share something? A remembrance, short story? Something you loved about Lois?
Hi, my name is Dan Taylor, and I grew up in this church. I don't have a particular story about Lois that stands out for me, but she was always there in the background as a pillar of this church. And that was always, a very positive and good thing. But I wanted to also give the microphone to my mother, who's one of the few parishioners here who has been here going to the church longer than Lois, and spent many coffee hours talking with her.
Then without Lois, I don't know. He was truly a friend. I counted on seeing him every week. We loved each other. So long, Lois.
These, then, are a few of your thoughts and remembrances of Lois. Whether or not we have succeeded in accurately portraying her life, it is surely as Chuck Gaines has written, "No person can sum up the life of another. Life is too precious to be passed over with mere words. Rather, it must remain as it is remembered by those who loved and watched and shared. For such memories are alive, unbound by events of birth and death. And as living memories, we possess the greatest gift one person can give another." It is to each of you, then, that the living memories of Lois Peterson are committed. To your hearts and minds go the enduring remembrances of this life. Let us take a moment of silent prayer to reflect upon your own memories of Lois. We are profoundly glad that Lois Peterson lived. Remember seeing her beautiful face and feeling the glow of her laughter. Cherish the memory of her words and deeds and character. Carrying her thus in your hearts, let us go now from this place in comfort and peace, assured that even in the time of loss and sorrow, life remains precious and good. May we also on this day rekindle in our hearts an appreciation for the gifts of life and for other people. Amen. As I said in the beginning, the family does welcome you to a reception in Whitcomb Hall, and we will guide you there row by row from the pews so that we can maintain some distance. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much and celebrating this wonderful, wonderful person. So.